Last year, I made a video pointing out Star Citizen's bias towards combat due to various reasons. Many agreed, but many also pointed out the possibilities in Star Citizen outside of combat. And to be honest with you, the age of combat being the sole focus of Star Citizen is kind of over. The components are finally starting to fall into place for us to actually be able to do stuff in game besides just pew pew. We have a clear view of the true late game ambitions of Star Citizen that involve a lot more coordination between players, and everybody is well aware that the future is just not solely combat. And despite whatever way the game is advertised, it is pretty easy to see now we are in the age of industry in Star Citizen, and the newest ship releasing in the game in Alpha 4.0.1 is a clear sign of that. So what could this mean that we are finally seeing an alternative salvage ship added to the game? Is it a step forward for the gameplay, or just another ship? Is it better than the Vulture, equivalent, or entirely worse? And if you'd like to see the full gameplay session where I'm testing this ship out in the experiences both in Stanton and in Pyro, you can check out my gameplay channel, Space Tomato Plays, where I should have the video up in the coming days. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. Looking at the last however many years of development we've been through at this point, you'll notice a pretty clear trend with Star Citizen. Combat ships seem to be the easiest to make. It makes sense, lasers are the most popular form of beam, and we are playing Beam Citizen. As the gameplay developed from there though, we saw mining ships, cargo ships, even exploration ships, whatever that means. And eventually came the salvage ship. So in that time, the game has started to shift as we've seen more ships like the Hull series, the Mole, the Vulture, and even the Atlas come in to shake up industrial gameplay, similar to how ships like the Mantis, the Arrow, or the F-8 Lightning have shaken up combat over the years. I mean, we have 2 salvage ships, next to like 30 plus completely unique combat options. You gotta give one to the industry stalwarts out there. But if we've only got 2 salvage ships and one is generally a one-person job, why another one-person ship rather than a mid-size? Is it offering something different? There are a couple reasons for this ship, but I'll start with the most obvious. It's just easier to solo than the Vulture. All of the salvage you pick up in this ship is automatically dispensed and organized itself across your cargo grid, and the ship conveniently stores the cargo externally, so it can be easily picked up and transported with tractor beams without you needing to even open a cargo door. The literal seconds this saves you on the job might not actually amount to much, as many min-maxers in the comments are currently typing up, but you could also say that to all those folks who jump off the highway just to drive to the next entrance because they think they're beating some of the time in traffic. It's about the feeling of the experience. It's about getting to do the action the way you want to do it. Some people really hate needing to walk around in this game. With this ship, you and a friend could salvage, transfer, and ship the materials to the space station without ever even leaving your seats with the Fortune and the Nomad. With 12 SCU of storage plus the 13 SCU internal buffer that puts it right on par with the Vulture capabilities, it's got solid storage, and it's all handled on a single floor, no ladder. And then on the interior, it also appears you can store 4 SCU on a grid on the elevator. So you have more official cargo storage than the Vulture, and it seems you can also store more unofficially too. However, that might lead to damaged goods and a damaged ship in the future, so I don't know why they encourage that. With this ship, you're also getting VTOL engines. Now, this might not mean much right now, but when you're hovering on a planet in full gravity, scraping up the hull of a ship for minutes at a time, those VTOL thrusters are actually going to save you a lot of wear and tear on your maneuvering thrusters, and thus, a lot of time and money on ship repairs. Which means more profit for every salvage job. Don't say I didn't warn you. Interestingly, from the information I can find though, the Fortune is closer in size to the Vulture than the slightly smaller Prospector, so it does lose that leg up in terms of having a smaller signature possibly, but it does have a larger quantum fuel tank for longer range, which actually comes quite in handy in Pyro. The biggest drawback to the ship is it comes with less capability in a single utility mount for your laser. I think there's a lot of room for them to introduce new salvage lasers, larger sizes, components, and gadgets, but I imagine it'll be a little while before we see that. One thing I do find pretty cool is that you can put any SCU box on this ship, so technically it can work as a 12 SCU cargo hauler with a tractor beam on the front, making this kind of like a multi-use utility ship, like a larger Argo MPU, but also with the ability to salvage and craft. Honestly, pretty cool. And so with that, we can see this ship offers some diversity in salvaging, but it doesn't bring any fundamental changes to the gameplay itself. And while there doesn't need to be a better choice, players are going to find reasons for either one of these to be the right one for them. And if CIG is doing this right, all those players will be correct. Everybody has different priorities based on their danger levels, their material choices, and ultimate goals of salvaging. Remember, we won't be resource harvesting purely for profit much longer. But as I said, the Fortune does seem to fit the flow of salvaging better, even if it wasn't necessarily built to be objectively better at doing salvage. Why is that? Well, the Vulture suffers from the same problem as the Reclaimer, the Redeemer, the 600i, the Mule, the Endeavor, and the Galaxy base building module. They were made before their respective gameplay was fully designed. This will plague Star Citizen for a while, but it's always most apparent after a new type of gameplay like bounty hunting or salvage comes out, and you can see how the older ships get their retrofits to fit the gameplay around the ship, and a year or two later we start to see the ships that are actually tailor-made for that gameplay that make much more sense. You guys remember when the Vulture came out and they had to make workarounds to make it a little bit more usable because the way that it was designed didn't exactly fit how Salvage was designed? Now, both of these types of ships can exist. It's not that the Vulture shouldn't be in the game. And I do think that CIG has improved over the years in presenting concepts that can fit gameplay better as it comes. Mostly. Which I do think the use of drones and beams makes it easier to do so. But this does all mean that those who buy these ships and have bought all the ships earlier are going to have to deal with these design quirks probably forever. I'm sure this will change the way people choose those ships for the min-max crowd, but ultimately this kind of direct competition mainly means that people can play how they want with the ship they vibe with. So I'm here for more choice, and CIG has made it pretty clear they wanted a ship that offered alternatives to the Vulture through convenience at the price of raw salvaging speed. And I think in the long term, this is in a good position to do just that. Now, another reason we are likely seeing this ship is because it is a very easy onboarding or early stage job for a new vehicle developer, somebody new to the ship team. Not only is it based on established and existing gameplay and design language and small salvaging and MISC, it also uses an old chassis from the Prospector line of mining ships. While this is still a hefty amount of work, it's something that will allow a dev to get comfortable with the ship pipeline workflow and possibly even the team culture with a less stressful but high impact task, because have no doubt, people want more choice in industry. It also makes sense to reuse the chassis of the older ships in new ways, and I appreciate how they fit the storage style of this ship to match the tech that the same company uses in their other cargo-focused ships. Now, this isn't the mid-size salvage ship folks are looking for, but with the cargo elevator in the back, the single-floor design, the VTOL engines, and the unique storage and deployment system, it does offer a unique take at the existing salvage gameplay that the solo gameplay-focused industrial crowd can probably get pretty happy about. This should also mean the Prospector will see an update to match the current ship's gold standard. That would mean physical components passed, touched up switches and buttons, and improved functionality around the interior and exterior of the ship. But we will see about that. If CIG really cared about the future of humanity, they'd also take this opportunity to allow the mining bags to be transferred and stored as well. Think about humanity, CIG. Finally, this is not where salvage ends. While the use of these weird disintegration field thingies has made me nervous that they may shy away from physical manipulation for salvage, there are still plenty of opportunities for them to flesh out the fracturing process before the disintegration. And there's much more to salvage. Component retrieval is still very underutilized in this profession. The ability to break into ships, tractor beam components in safe zones, and pull components out of any ship are still only partially existent. Until then, salvage is largely limited to beams. Besides that, we will also have fuel, water, and oxygen siphoning, and we've previously heard about salvage charges being used, possibly to help with ship fracturing and hull breaching on the FPS side. This ship is just a small step in adding diversity to a career path that has a long way to go. And it's one I would absolutely say wait until you can get in-game. There's no reason to spend real money on this other than to support the game, or because you really want that insurance, but if you just want a salvaging ship, you can always go and get the Vulture in-game and you won't be missing out on much from this experience. In about 2 quarters, this one should be available in-game as well, likely for around the same price if not a little cheaper than the Vulture, I hope, and we'll have some more choice for in-game earners. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the future of this ship or other ships that enter the game and the future of development in salvage or other professions in Star Citizen, I've got you covered right here. Consider subscribing to this channel for more weekly information, or my second channel, Space Tomato 2, where I have weekly podcasts with new guests every week, deep dives into feature development, and casual news about Star Citizen and other games. Or you can just go off and enjoy the rest of your day. Whatever you decide, thank you for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next.